First reminder, viewer, that today the long-awaited for Sevenomics conference will be kicking off at Misteel Hotel in Kampala, and Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, that is UBC TV, will give you live coverage of that conference, Sevenomics conference. I don't know if you heard of that, Julie, where they're going to look at President Yoweri Museveni's economic policies since 1986, how far they have taken Uganda. Are there certain things we must look and make adjustment? Are some that we have to drop forever and say they have not worked, or are we keeping others? So the conference is today. It will be live on UBC TV, but also for those that are invited, please make time and be at Misteel Hotel in Kampala. Now, also yesterday was World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and I self-appointed myself to be an ambassador of menstruation with dignity. After listening to speakers, hearing various concerns of the girls in school, I noticed that the male as the men must take a role, a lead role actually, in ensuring that these young girls in school have dignity while in this cycle. And I also noticed that actually menstruation is not a thing for the women. It is a human challenge, not a gender-based challenge. So we all have to join efforts and support women during this critical moment of their lives. But also something interested me yesterday, Julie.
Right, what's that?
I was watching the National Unity Platform, that is the president and the spokesperson, who also is the LOP, Joel Senyonyi in Teso sub-region. And they were having they donated some cuffs. There are very few cuffs. They made some donation, but that wasn't what made news to me. What made news to me is the environment, where they had their, would I call it, meeting. They met the elders there. You know, there wasn't that heavy deployment. There wasn't chaos at all. I said, I think this is the country we need. And themselves, I'm sure, they wanted this meeting. I don't know if then they followed what they are usually accused of not following, if they wrote and informed the police or notified the police. But I was happy to see such a gathering and people disseminating what they want to tell the people. We don't have tear gas. We don't have so much deployment. For me, that's what made news.
Right. Because
them donating cuffs, I hear compensation. We had the Prime Minister in Kakumbiro donating heifers, some which were also pregnant, so that didn't carry water. But for me, I enjoyed that Uganda, where members in the opposition can, with dignity, hold a meeting, be responsible enough, don't incite people, but communicate their message, where also security can let this be. How I long for that Uganda.
Wow, that was indeed a beautiful scene that indeed must be adopted for the rest of Uganda. Speaking of things that were interesting stories in Uganda, did you know that the IGG named the most corrupt districts? Wow, what a report. But of the 134 districts reviewed between July and December 2024, Kampala topped with 253 corruption cases. Kampala being the first and the flag bearer, followed by Wakiso, 56 corruption cases, Mbale, 44 corruption cases, Masaka, 34 corruption cases, and Mukono with 32 corruption cases. And it will interest you that there are districts that had the least corruption cases, and by least I mean they only had one corruption case. Imagine a district coming out with just one corruption case. What degree of integrity do they?
No, I don't want to believe it's the degree of integrity.
It's the degree of what?
It's the fact that these cases were not detected or captured. What do I mean?
So,
these are reported cases that the IGG gets.
Yeah.
Now, there are some districts that even if people are corrupt there, no one will go to report. Most of those very rural, the rural districts.
Right. Because
someone is thinking they are being done a favor. They don't know they are right. So they will give and feel they are blessed, and they will even give a testimony in a church about how you get it. But for Kampala, people are knowledgeable. People have the exposure. People report.
And of these ones that had one corruption case, Buweju, Bukedea, Kalaki, Karenga, Luka, and Nabila Tuk.
Now listen to Karaki, Karenga. The thing, You get it?
Yes, indeed. And you talk about Ugandans normalizing corruption, so much so that even in day-to-day conversations, as someone is planning, for example, to have a case reported at police, many times they will say that, I have to have what? Some soda for the
Actually,
officers. And it's normal. They speak about it in normal terms, like,
let me just give you
haven't we
something
given
very
the officer
interesting.
some soda?
When someone is arrested at police,
Yeah.
and someone calls you, they are calling you to tell you, get some money, we go to police. They say, gundi bamukutte, naye twekolemu awo omulimu tugende ku police.
Right.
Like someone has been arrested, lets you know, collect money and go to police.
Right.
So we've normalized corruption in this country. When results are back, there's a form of corruption and I keep on asking myself, why do we do these things? A person will call you, Judy, my child gave Gayaza. I'm just taking an example, not saying I'm using Gayaza. It's one of the schools that everybody knows. Okay, let me use King's College Wudu or St. Mary's Chitende, schools that are known. Someone will ask you, do you know somebody there?
Right. That is
You
very
get that,
true.
eh?
Yeah.
Do you know somebody there? But it's very clear. St. Mary's Chitende, if you're going in senior 1, you must have a 4 up to 6.
And it's very interesting.
But a
that,
child has a 9 address and the parent is calling to say, do you know somebody there? You and be there.
It's very interesting that you would even find it in Christian circles asking, do you know somebody there? Which is not ideally allowed and it's not a source of integrity. But anyways, that being said, Robert, take us through what's in the local scene.
Well, we'll begin with President Yoweri Museveni and the peace efforts to ensure Congo Eastern DRC is fine. Now, 13 African heads of state and government gathered at State House Entebbe for a high-level summit aimed at enhancing regional peace framework as the crisis in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo deepens. Hosted by President Museveni, the 12th high-level meeting of the Regional Oversight Mechanism brought together elders from the Great Lakes region, as well as officials from the African Union, United Nations, and the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. Their goal, to assess persistent insecurity in the DRC and to adopt a roadmap for restoring peace and cooperation across one of Africa's most volatile corridors. At the top of the agenda was the worsening conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where rebel activity, particularly by the M23 group, has displaced tens of thousands and intensified civilian suffering. In a strongly worded communique, the leaders condemned the group's territorial advances and denounced the presence of foreign armed factions, calling for their immediate disarmament. The statement also reaffirmed a long-standing commitments under the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework, including the non-interference in neighbors' affairs, respect of sovereignty, and accountability for grave crimes such as genocide and war crimes. The Office of the Prime Minister, through the Ministry of Bunyoro Affairs, gave out 150 heifers to women to fight poverty in households. The Prime Minister of Uganda, Robert Nabanja, handed the cows to the 19 beneficiaries in Kakumiro district. The government program of alleviating poverty among Ugandans includes giving out livestock as one of the priority enterprises for increasing people's incomes among households. The Prime Minister of Uganda, Robert Nabanja, handed the heifers to the 19 beneficiaries in Kakumiro district. However, the Prime Minister cautioned the beneficiaries to avoid any attempt of selling off the animals. The Ministry of Education and Sports is urging various stakeholders and implementing partners to reassess their interventions in order to effectively address the growing challenge of teenage pregnancies, early marriages, and menstrual health management. This appeal was made during the commemoration of World Menstrual Hygiene Day, which emphasizes global importance of proper menstrual hygiene practices. Every woman deserves dignity, safety, and quality care during her menstrual cycle. Uganda joined the rest of the world to observe this day. On the theme together for a period-friendly world, calling for collective action to ensure that menstruation does not hinder access to education, health care, or opportunity. Representing the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Jent Kataha Museveni, the State Minister for Sports, Peter Ogwang, reaffirmed the government's commitment to investing in initiatives aimed at keeping girls in schools and eliminating the stigma associated with menstruation. Speaking at the National Dialogue on Preventing Teenage Pregnancy, Ending Early Marriage, Advancing Menstrual Health and Hygiene, and Promoting Positive Parenting in Uganda, several partners and implementers raised concern about inadequate funding to address these interconnected challenges. However, they also reiterated their support to government's efforts. During the event, national menstrual health guidelines were officially launched, with different partners and stakeholders signing on as a show of commitment. Now, finally, on the local scene, the Parliamentary Committee on Commission, Statutory Authority and State Enterprises, COSASE, summoned the Minister for Energy and Mineral Development, Ruth Nankabira, together with the Ministry of Finance to explain the 500 billion debt from UETCL to UMEME. UETCL revealed to the committee how UMEME handed over to government without clearing its outstanding debt to the company. Uganda Electric Transmission Company Limited responded to the Auditor General's report for the financial year ended June 2024. The report shows how UETCL still grapples with debts and outstanding receivables close to 899 billion shillings. Response while appearing before the COSASE chaired by Medad Rubega Segona, the committee noted how the company has an outstanding debt of 5 billion shillings from UMEME. This raised concern as MPs questioned why the company allowed government to compensate UMEME without proper balance of books. The MPs also pinned the Ministry of Finance on why it passed a supplementary paying up of UMEME without paying up agencies that owe it. Government agencies have failed to pay for the electricity, where UETCL demands 157 billion shillings of electricity to Ministry of Defense. COSASE summoned the Minister for Energy and the Minister of Finance to explain mechanisms used in paying up UMEME without clearing companies that owe it. And with that, we come to the end of our local stories this morning.
Right, Robert, you did talk about a story there in the celebration of World Menstrual Hygiene Day. And some of the things that keep ringing in my mind, wondering why not? If condoms are free, why not pads? If condoms can be made free and readily available for whoever wants to use them, why not pads?
Well, during the event, they called for ensuring that sanitary pads in this country do not pay tax. Now, they're urging government that among the things you can exclude taxation, let this be free of taxation. Maybe this will make them cheaper and fairly affordable to many young girls out there. Because the challenge now, I think they're between 3,000 and above. 2,500?
3,600.
Yeah, 3,600
or 800.
Something like that, and you go up to 10,000.
Yes.
Now, that is not money that many girls, live alone the privileged in Kampala and in urban centers, in those rural areas, yet they make it comfortable and convenient for these young girls to go to school when they are, because we are promoting dignity
Right.
during menstruation.
So true. So to whoever is responsible, let the action actually be implemented so that pads are readily available, just as condoms are readily available. But moving on to what's on the foreign scene, like we had started earlier with the story on Elon Musk, is the very one we are starting with. And billionaire Elon Musk has said that his time leading President Donald Trump's cost-cutting task force has come to an end. In a post on his social media platform, X, Musk thanked Trump for the opportunity to help run the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE. He was designated as a special government employee, allowing him to work a federal job for 130 days each year. Measured from Trump's inauguration on 20th January, he would hit that limit towards the end of May. And Musk's exit would come after he criticized Trump's big, beautiful budget bill, the legislative centerpiece of the president's agenda. As my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I'd like to thank President real Donald Trump, that is his ex-handle, for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending, Musk wrote on X. The DOGE mission will only strengthen over time as it becomes a way of life throughout the government. The BBC understands that the White House began offboarding Musk as a special government employee on Wednesday night. Musk's exit comes after he said he was disappointed with Trump's budget, which proposes multi-trillion-dollar tax breaks and a boost to defense spending. Now, moving on to the Middle East, UN's World Food Program says that hordes of hungry people have broken into a food supply warehouse in central Gaza. 2 people are reported to have died and several others injured in the incident, the program said, adding that it was still confirming details. Video footage from AFP's news agency showed crowds breaking into the Al Ghafari warehouse in Deir al-Balah and taking bags of flour and cartons of food as gunshots rang out. It was not immediately clear where the gunshots came from. In a statement, the World Food Program said humanitarian needs in Gaza had spiraled out of control after an almost 3-month Israeli blockade that was eased last week. The WFP said that the food supplies had been pre-positioned at the warehouse for distribution. The program added, Gaza needs an immediate scale-up of food assistance. This is the only way to reassure people that they will not starve. The WFP said it had consistently warned of alarming and deteriorating conditions on the ground, and the risks imposed by limiting humanitarian aid to hungry people in desperate need of assistance. Israeli authorities said on Wednesday that 121 trucks belonging to the UN and the international community carrying humanitarian aid, including flour and food, were transferred into Gaza. And coming back to the region in Africa, especially in East Africa, many did books like Things Fall Apart in their literature school days, in high school that was. And it's important that we all pay homage to Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who died aged 87 years. He was a titan of modern African literature, such a storyteller who refused to be bound by jail, exile, and illness. His work spanned roughly 6 decades, primarily documenting the transformation of his country, Kenya, from a colonial subject to a democracy. Ngugi wa Thiong'o was tipped to win the Nobel Prize for Literature countless times, leaving fans dismayed each time the medal slipped through his fingers. He will be remembered not only as a Nobel-worthy writer, but also a fierce proponent of literature written in native African languages. Ngugi was born James Thiong'o Ngugi in 1938. When Kenya was under British colonial rule, he grew up in the town of Limuru among a large family of low-income agricultural workers. His parents scrimped and saved to pay for his tuition at Alliance, a boarding school run by British missionaries. And in an interview, Ngugi recalled returning home from Alliance at the end of the term to find his entire village had been razed by the colonial authorities. His family members were among the hundreds and thousands forced to live in detention camps during the crackdown on the Mau Mau, a movement of independence fighters, and the Mau Mau uprising, which lasted from 1952 to 1960, touched Ngugi's life in numerous devastating ways.
You know what that reminds me?
What's that?
Recently, the president of Kenya visited US, and there was a video played by Donald Trump showing how whites had issues. Now, when we remember our history for the South Africans, I think it was in South Africa, sorry. Remember what happened in Uganda. I always ask myself, do our brothers from that side of from that different continent compared to others, where do they often get moral authority?
Right.
To talk about human rights abuse, first and foremost, I always ask myself, you know, when they pick the smallest among,
right.
I always say, but you people, do you think Africans forget very fast?
And perhaps they were the teachers.
I leave it at that. That's just
Let's indeed move on to what's happening in the dailies.
Well, we begin with a new vision where we have Kagezi murderer, Gasire grilled. Now also, the new vision brings you China-Russia reaffirm bond, and President Museveni addresses Great Lakes leaders on DRC crisis. The new vision also brings you tenders, the way you can look through, maybe you never know. You could be able to supply or win one of these tenders. I'll quickly move to what the Monitor has this morning, and AI for health, anytime, anywhere. Now, artificial intelligence is taking on.
Surely, indeed. Indeed. Somebody the other day said that you are busy laughing, but your doctor has been trained by AI.
And of course, yesterday, Uganda Broadcasting Corporation concluded a very important workshop. That was the Broadcast and Digital Media Convention, East Africa. It was running at 4 points. And really, there's so much discussing AI and media. And it was very fruitful and beneficial to all media practitioners in Africa and in Uganda, to be more particular. Now, also away from that, we have when care turned into commitment. And now for people in love, profile there, when care turned into commitment. People have their stories. Should I keep waiting for him to marry me? Keep waiting. Judy, did you keep waiting? Who knows what happens?
Oh, well, commitment is key, but that's a story for another day.
Then here we have a Bernard Hires, silent battle with a rare cancer. Well, so much there for you in those dailies, but let's fly or drive all the way to Tanzania and Kenya.
Surely, indeed, and today we're focusing on Kenya in the Daily Nation. Pay rise for 23,000 promoted teachers. And a breakthrough, MPs had suspended the promotions for 2 months, citing irregularities. Now, denied an ambulance, baby died 2 hours later. Sad story there in the Daily Nation. But also still in the Daily Nation, there is a story on a probe. Police boss details how MP staged his abduction. Owners of Ngong Forest Club exposed. Also still in the Daily Nation, Ruto's plea for truce. President reaches out to Gen Zs with half-hearted apology. And defiant Ahmed Nasir, lawyer vows not to relent on war against corrupt judges. And that is a story. Those are stories that are in the Daily Nation and altogether in the press. Make sure that you buy yourself copies of these press papers so that you're able to stay informed and current. Good Morning Uganda does continue, but allow us to take a short break while you enjoy some music. It's a Thursday, so we get to throw back, and in particular today we are throwing back with Brenda Fassi Volindela.
Live
role that is Dodge in an effort to MAGA, as in Make America Great Again. And this is a role that he has been serving with the Donald Trump administration. And he was appointed in January 2025 this year as a special government employee, and Musk aimed to slash federal spending by up to $1 trillion, streamline bureaucracy and modernize government operations. His Dodge department claimed budget savings, IT modernization, fraud referrals, workforce reductions, etc., etc. And under Dodge is where we also saw cuts in funding budgets. We were most of NGOs here in Uganda closed or reduced on their budgets, and so many employees also lose their jobs. Now we'll dig deep into that story as we look at what is on the foreign scene. But once again, good morning, and good morning to you, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, Julie, and the viewer. Thank you very much for waking up with us. Well, so much is happening in the world, and I'll choose to first come back home.
Right.
First reminder, viewer, that today the long-awaited for Sevenomics conference will be kicking off at Misteel Hotel in Kampala, and Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, that is UBC TV, will give you live coverage of that conference, Sevenomics conference. I don't know if you heard of that, Julie, where they're going to look at President Yoweri Museveni's economic policies since 1986, how far they have taken Uganda. Are there certain things we must look and make adjustment? Are some that we have to drop forever and say they have not worked, or are we keeping others? So the conference is today. It will be live on UBC TV, but also for those that are invited, please make time and be at Misteel Hotel in Kampala. Now, also yesterday was World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and I self-appointed myself to be an ambassador of menstruation with dignity. After listening to speakers, hearing various concerns of the girls in school, I noticed that the male as the men must take a role, a lead role actually, in ensuring that these young girls in school have dignity while in this cycle. And I also noticed that actually menstruation is not a thing for the women. It is a human challenge, not a gender-based challenge. So we all have to join efforts and support women during this critical moment of their lives. But also something interested me yesterday, Judy.
Right, what's that?
I was watching the National Unity Platform, that is the president and the spokesperson, who also is the LOP, in Teso sub-region. And they were having they donated some cuffs. There are very few cuffs. They made some donation, but that wasn't what made news to me. What made news to me is the environment, where they had their, would I call it, meeting. They met the elders there. You know, there wasn't that heavy deployment. There wasn't chaos at all. I said, I think this is the country we need. And themselves, I'm sure, they wanted this meeting. I don't know if...
There exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Okwongera okuyiga ebikwata ku musolo n'okubisembereza abagusasula. Bannayuganda bangi balina ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo gwe basasula eri ekitongole ekiwooza KRA.
When we come at revenue, They tell us to clear Chitenge at 10,000.
Alikuwa fika kwa mwingine URA na kurespect anasema mzee tuongee. Munaongee. Hakuna fika kwa mwingine na kamata file yako naweka kwa drawer na
okutegeera obukulu bw'okusasula omusolo busobola okuyamba okuzza bizinesi yo n'okwewala okufiirizibwanga. Kati osobola okufuna okuddibwamu obutereevu. Sindika ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo ng'oweereza obubaka bw'obutereevu ne WhatsApp ku nnamba y'essimu 0790 14 18 87 olwo ofuna okuddibwamu okuva ewa Kamisona General wa URA John Musinguzi. Laba amawulire gaffe UBC leero buli lwa bbalaza n'olwokusatu ofune okunnyonnyola okulambulukufu okuva ew'omukenkufu. Buuza Kamisona.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again, and in case you are just joining us, good morning, welcome. This is Good Morning Uganda. If you're watching us for the very first time, we air every single day, Monday to Friday, as we kickstart your day with conversations that matter to you and build you and inspire you ultimately, because that is the vision. My name is Julie Nantava Musisi, and as always, I am with Robert Chirabo Nyonyi Tono. Now, at this time of the day, we do engage in a topical discussion where we share our minds as citizens of Uganda, really not as experts, but as citizens of Uganda, how we see things unfold and what we think about them. And that means you too are a part of the conversation. So save the number 0709602592. Save it so that you are able to be part of the conversation while we all together learn and relearn. Now, on the 27th day of May, which was the day before yesterday, at about 10 p.m., a fire outbreak occurred at a row of kiosks along Ntinda Chiwatule Road in Chinawataka, that is Bukoto 2 Parish, Nakawa Division. And police responded swiftly, and a team of from the Fire Prevention and Rescue Services was dispatched to the scene with multiple firefighting units. Thank God that no life was lost, but definitely a lot of property was lost that day. And today we are really looking at fire outbreaks in Uganda and how we can help each other as well as the police alongside us fight these fires and prevent them at that. So 0709, once again, 0709602592 is the WhatsApp number you are engaging to be part of this conversation. Now, a little bit of statistics from the Uganda Police Crime Report 2024. The police registered a total of 1,604 cases of arson in the year 2024. And that was a reduced number of cases, a reduction by 10% from the year 2023, which was about 1,792 cases registered. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly does arson mean? Arson is a crime, and it's the deliberate setting of fire. So, on that note, we engage in that conversation, and I'm starting, obviously, with you, Robert. Once again, good morning.
A lovely morning to you, Julie.
What do you think is the rampant cause of these fires? Just, was it at the January, February, we were faced with a case at Rashid Khamis, that hotel at Rashid Khamis, where some lives were lost. Rescuing people who were in the hotel was hard, and we saw what happened, really. And generally, a lot is happening, and rampantly, and just in a short span, a case after the other, and you'd wonder what exactly is happening. So what do you think is the cause?
First I want to go to the statistics. Rightly you said arson reduced, which is true. And arson, this is deliberate. Like you said, maybe we are fighting over something. I'll never forget one of the cases that I covered often, were the fires where now we have, is it Ham Arcade, something like that? That was called Parkyard by then. Now, on one point, even police confirmed that was arson. So you would see even what was used to torch these poor people. And of course, they are no more. But that is how development comes in sometimes. Now, when we look at fires, the arson cases reduced, which is good, that fires that have been confirmed, that they were set intentionally by someone, those reduced. But however, when you look at the police crime or annual report for 2024, because 2025 is not yet out, these come, so we can only use 2024 as latest statistics. It is very clear that the number of fire incidents reported in 2024 surged by 13.8%, rising from 1,104 cases in 2023 to 1,208 cases, according to the police crime report. Now, interesting here, out of the reported cases, authorities managed to handle 1,150 incidents successfully, while 120 fires were exhumed before emergency services appeared. Annoying, 10 of the reported incidents turned out to be false alarms. So someone doesn't have what to do and they decide to deceive police and make that call. But also it's clear that the report indicates that majority of the fires, about 67%, occurred between 6 a.m. and midnight, while 33% were reported between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. Now, one of the things that is really very bad when fires break out here in Uganda is most of our businesses are not insured. You know, so when fire destroys property, leave alone the life, because we can't have replacement for life.
Right.
But all the fire now, this was a row of kiosks, meaning there were a number of kiosks in a line.
And those are businesses.
And those are businesses.
People's livelihoods.
People's livelihoods, school fees is gotten there, feeding is gotten there. People never recover. I'll still stick to Parkyard. I knew people, young men, who are doing very well. And one of them, I think, is a local musician. Maybe let me preserve his name. He was dealing in these Timberland boots. They burnt them the first time because it was arson. I think he got some money somewhere, Bambi, and he came back. Now, when the second incident happened, they burnt them seriously. The man almost ran. He's never recovered. Life took him that direction because we do not insure our businesses. Now, quick one to the causes. Just want to point out that right. If it is possible, the informal sector, how can they, is there an insurance package that can suit them so that when these uncertainties happen, they can be brought back to something similar to what they were before. Now, causes one, arson. That a number of these fires are deliberate. We had, I think, was it Wandege Yakubiri? These people at the end of the year who failed to agree, I think it was about money. Then we are told some of those that felt cheated went and torched, and we saw vehicles and property lost. So arson is one of the causes. We saw Salama School for the Deaf, arson. It was confirmed. But how do you ban young girls who can't hear, who can't see? Now, away from arson, we have electricity. A number of fires that happen are as a result of electricity. Remember, I have poor connection. I was looking at statistics here where it said the report recorded 270 cases of electrical short circuits, while electrical appliances left unattended to accounted for 111 incidents. Additional negligence and misuse of work scandals contributed 217 fire outbreaks. So arson, now you have unattended to electric appliances. Maybe someone is cooking at the same time she's ironing. Someone leaves a percolator there, not all switch off, or something unattended to. It could be even maybe a hot plate. There are some people still use those hot plates.
Right.
So these also cause these fire outbreaks. But also not to forget poor connections, electric connections. Many people do not employ professionals. They have what we call the kamufus. I am a professional boy. This boy was just giving me wires, tools here and there, but he was critical at looking at what I'm doing. Now he moves around. Owama Sanyalaze, the village, connecting house to house. And at the end of the day, these poor connections. But also, let's not also forget electricity theft. Ugandans, because you find electricity lines underground, moving through funny things, and these funny connections easily cause this. Then a number of fires, yes, unattended to candles. There's an incident we had, I think it was in Waise, where this mother left a toddler and I think another 5 or something years, a candle. She went to do some dancing, but she said that is how she was fending for them. She goes, attracts a few, then comes. So this dozed off, and the wax, you know, a candle, till it burnt, and by the time they woke up, it was too late. Now, away from the candles, a number of fires also occur due to unattended to charcoal stoves. When you go to Ndeba recently, they had a fire, Mumbao. And they were all pointing at, you know, in these, when you go sort of why you say Mbao still, there are these ladies that have small, not restaurants, they're not worthy restaurants, but there are some funny, we call them
Food depots.
Food depots, yeah. Thank you for that. I'm sure, Julie, you went to Chikumi that campus. Now, those small depots, like Julie has called them, they have a tendency, they leave a sigiri, let me use the common word, this charcoal stove, they put on beans because beans take long. Now they want by morning when they come that these beans are ready, so they will just fly and serve a chencha. So most of the fires that have covered these charcoal stoves, either somehow, because they'll tell you, we've been doing this is how we've been doing things. Maybe that particular day, or some of the charcoals were not put on properly, then somehow it all overturned and charcoal spilled, hot charcoal spilled over, and fire. We had a fire outbreak. So basically those are some of the causes: arson, electricity, unattended to candles, unattended to charcoal stoves.
Let's have a look at poor urban planning and housing standards. What role do you think this plays in being a major cause of fire outbreaks within urban centers?
I think this is more so a problem when it comes to rescue services.
Okay.
Police putting out the fire. This is where I have a challenge, that most of the times when the vehicles from the police rescue, fire and rescue department come, they fail to find access to the venues. The trucks cannot pass easily. They have to jump fences, they have to brake, they have to go through so much. But also on the other side, still on the rescue, we have what we call water hydrants. Now, one time there was a fire in Chiseka Market. Remember, by then it was Andrew Sorowen who was the commander at Kampala Metropolitan. We rushed there on a tip-off. Now, the fire brigade knew, I think they have a map in Kampala, that here there is a water hydrant. A water hydrant is that point where these fire trucks can refill. So when they were planning this city, our colonial masters and those that came after knew that in Kampala, in case of a fire, let's put those special areas where in case there is a fire, the fire brigade may not have, the vehicle trucks may not have to go back and refill, but they can get water nearby.
Right.
Now, because of poor urban planning, most of these water hydrants, buildings have been constructed. Buildings. So now, even if there is a fire, you have a map that at around UBC, I know one fire hydrant actually, when you leave UBC, and this is Crescent Towers, there's that road that goes around. There was a fire hydrant there, a water hydrant, and I can confirm it ceases to be there now.
Right. Because
we were interested in that, and police gave us a map. So we knew some of them where they were, but out of about 80-something, you can only find 3 in operation.
Oh, wow.
So that is a problem of poor planning, urban planning, because how do you allow an arcade to spring up on a water hydrant? There should be KCCA and the police knowing that here you can't construct, here we need a way through to that water hydrant. But also because of these unplanned developments, you find that even the buildings that we construct do not have necessities to help in case of fire.
Right.
fire extinguishers, assembling points. How many buildings in this country, in this city, Uganda, that you go to and they can tell that that is the fire assembling point? I think Bank of Uganda has one, and some institutions where they indicate that in case of a fire, we all run and converge at this place.
Right. There was a fire outbreak at the Chiwatule Ntinda space, and along there are kiosks that were affected and burnt. Thankfully, no lives were lost, but a lot of property, and property in terms of business, was lost. And that is something we are looking at generally, how we are dealing with fire outbreaks in Uganda. So 0709602592 is the WhatsApp number that you can engage so that we are able to be together with you in on this conversation. Somebody just came through and said, good morning, Robert, and you and your sister, but I don't know her name. My name is Julie. Thank you so much for watching the show. Engage in the conversation that we have right now. Robert, how do you think, how effective are Uganda's emergency service response units?
Now, that is a hard nut to crack. But
and speaking as a Ugandan, in your experience with the experience you've had in the field of covering different stories, what have you seen? What have you observed? How
First,
effective?
I want to say, you see, fire prevention and rescue services involves multi-sectoral approach, and I don't want to cast the blame to only one sector. First, let's look at government as government. Have we invested in enough firefighting equipment? That in case there is a fire, have we invested in enough? The truth, I must say, that government has made some strides.
Right.
That's just a drop in the ocean. When you go to, because we would say that every city or every district in Uganda must have a fire station.
I remember, you remember the time of the Budo fires? At that time, I was still in school myself. But there was a lot of fire sensitizations on how to use fire extinguishers. And many extinguishers were put in place in different points. Even during holidays, you will note that in town, there were many fire extinguisher points. But one would wonder the energy that was used at that time, the zeal, the effort that was used at that time, is it the same effort still held?
Well, unless you've not lived in Uganda for so long, but if you have lived in Uganda for some time, we have what we call surgical operations. We respond to issues at that moment. We are not very proactive. We are only alert when something has happened. I remember when we had the twin bombings here.
Right.
That is that Ethiopian village and Chadondo. Remember even how entering the taxi park, public places, the checking, even if you left a phone and it rang in the taxi, someone would call you, say, "Oh, come back, your bag, there is something," you know? So that now went when we had COVID. So if you've lived around for some time, that is who we are.
And why should we be
So,
that? It should
now,
become,
going back to what you asked me.
Right.
One, government has tried to invest because we have a whole directorate in police, they are trained personnel, but the challenge is they lack enough equipment. They don't lack equipment, but they lack enough equipment. If every district had a fire station, most of these fires would, but you have to call Kampala here. Now, also, I remember one time there was a fire at Garden City, they had to call the airport. The fire trucks from Entebbe Airport. I asked I think it was Chihanda something, I said, now, what if we have a fire at the airport? You see. He made his calculations. So
what had happened to Katwe?
They came, but they needed backup.
Wow.
I've seen military police in Machindia. They have some, and also that comes in. But we are talking about Kampala now. Let's talk about Mbali. Let's talk about Nakapiripit. Let's talk about, so we don't have enough equipment. Now, also sensitization. We do not have enough sensitization. Come to KCCA. When they're approving a plan, do they factor in firefighting? You know? Come to us individuals and organizations. How many organizations prioritize fire? Like you rightly said when we had the Budo fire. One time, Bank of Uganda carried out a drill. So they told us, Bank of Uganda, there is fire, we got our gadgets rushed there. But they were just having a drill that in case of a fire, what could happen? Many institutions were doing that at that time.
Yes.
Because for us, we need to look at fire prevention and firefighting. Many organizations you go to have emergency doors that are totally locked and useless. You see emergency exit. But that emergency exit was long ago put under lock. Even if there is a fire, it is very useless to you.
And it's probably there's
So-
a pile of
Yes,
rubbish.
rubbish or something like that. So us on individual basis, how many people have smoke detectors in their homes, even those that can afford them?
Or
So
even own
this is
extinguishers.
yeah, extinguishers. Many have extinguishers that are next to useless. Why am I saying so? The fire extinguishers expire. They have a time. Others, very interestingly, one time I was in some hangout and fire broke out. So people had this fire extinguisher but didn't know how to use it. You know, it has a pin you must remove.
Yeah.
Now, these were fidgeting, and the counter, which had, of course, liquor, was catching fire. They just told the man, let go of the thing and I show you how it works. But also I was privileged to know how it works, how to operate it effectively, where you point the nozzle. Because there is some science in putting out a fire. You don't just come with that powder because you don't have, and then you remove the pin and just point anywhere. Where's the direction of the wind? All those things. So we as Ugandans will not prioritize the fire fighting and fire prevention as a country, at individual level, at institutional level, at community level. And then when it comes to government, there's still so much that has to be done as far as equipping this department, as far as staffing this department. Let's have more fire stations in our country. Let's have more trucks there, and let's also look at how we plan developments. KCCA and urban centers, this unplanned development. You know, I recently got to know that one of the areas, if you're working in KCCA, where there is money, is the enforcement, these people that go to buildings.
Okay.
I was just having a chat with some fella I met somewhere, and I discovered that are you aware that if you go to KCCA and you're given that department, you're given that car or that authority, let me even use Uganda, okwata abatalina pulani, you become rich in a very short time and you are much worth. Because a number of buildings, when you go there, just speak properly to this person. Mukulu pulani eriwa kati obimanyi, they give you money, you go. They give you money, you go. A number of building structures.
Little wonder Kampala is the most corrupt district.
Yes, and you go. It was in Baga. Then KCCA in defense, my good friend, my OB will come out and say, Robert, people build at night. Your people go to these sites and they are given money and drive off and go. Others come until a building has reached some stage and it's gone and gone and done. So how are we going to plan? When you're approving a plan of a structure, your architects, those experts there, do they factor in, okay, where have you planned firefighting? Because some firefighting equipment must be planned, that the plan of that building, that this is where the hose pipes are going to come from, are going to go through to be able to access floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, and so on. Do you factor in that now? If that is not done at planning, when you look at how you're approving these plans, do we have enough space that in case there is a fire, if someone comes with 100 by 100 and the building is taking 100 by 90,
right,
ask that person, but man, apart from asking for parking underground, where will a fire truck pass? Where will it fit? If the fire is at the extreme behind of this building, can the fire truck, can the firefighters go there? So these are some of the things. We are all to blame, I must say.
Right.
Yes.
And one would wonder if, indeed, as Robert has given examples with KCCA officials, if regulations really are actually exercised or implemented. But one would also think about the citizens of Uganda, the day-to-day person, how sensitized are they when it comes to firefighting? How much knowledge do they have? How much awareness from the back of their minds are they given to be so cautious as to any time a fire can break out and any time you have to be ready to help save your life as the police comes to join you. A lot of questions in place, but I think it's this point, this moment as we're speaking, should be a point of awareness, especially to those who make the policies. There should be a change. How best can the public be engaged in getting into the firefighting mode so that it's not just a one-off, but it's a day-to-day thing. Every day one is aware of, in case of anything, I'm able to have a starting point to fight a fire before all is lost, or even at worst, life is lost. That brings us to the end of this conversation today, as we've been talking about fires, but there's still a lot more in store for you. So stick around, because it's Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
okwongera okuyiga ebikwata ku musolo n'okubisembereza abagusasula. Bannayuganda bangi balina ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo gwe basasula eri ekitongole ekiwooza URA.
When we come at revenue, they tell us to clear kitenge at 10,000.
Alikuwa nafika kwa mwingine URA na kurespect lazima mzee tuongee. Munaongee. Hakuna fika kwa mwingine na kamata faili yako naweka kwa drawer na
okutegeera obukulu bw'okusasula omusolo busobola okuyamba okuzza bizinesi yo n'okwewala okufiirizibwanga. Kati osobola okufuna okuddibwamu obutereevu. Sindika ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo ng'oweereza obubaka bw'obutereevu ne WhatsApp ku nnamba y'essimu 0791488 olwo ofuna okuddibwamu okuva ewa kamisona General wa URA John Musinguzi. Laba amawulire gaffe UBC leero buli lwa bbalaza n'olwokusatu ofune okunnyonnyola okulambulukufu okuva ew'omukenkufu. Buuza kamisona.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Arise and shine. It is a wonderful morning. My name is Zakia Lucky and welcome to the GMU Tourism Express. I want to start with the good news in the tourism sector. The Uganda Airlines launched a direct flight to the UK that will be doing 4 times a week, and it is starting on the 18th of May. You should be excited for that one. Previously, we talked about religious tourism, but that was dedicated to the Muslims. And this is the 3rd week of the Lent period, and this is being dedicated to the Christians. We are coming to you from Namugongo Shrine. Most of you know about this for the Uganda Matters particularly, but today you are going to be learning so much more about this place. It's not just about the Uganda Matters, but you're yet to get to understand what else happens here. Let's unveil it to you today. So we are inside of the shrine and we are at the very spot where Charles Rwanga was killed. But Ben is going to be taking us to the history about this particular area and give us even more information about this place. We're happy to have you, Mr. Ben, on the show.
Thank you so much. My name is Ben Tenywa, the Chief Pilgrim's Guide at the Uganda Matters Catholic Shrine Namugongo. Now we are inside here in the Uganda Matters Shrine. Where we are standing is the exact spot where they burnt Charles Rwanga, the leader of the Uganda Matters. It was around midday on Thursday, 3rd of June, 1886. A man known as Senkole tied Charles Rwanga here and burnt him from feet to head. But he told him, "You are burning me, but it is as if you are pouring water over my body. You have not even tied me properly. Leave me, I tie myself so that you can burn me. Go and tell the king that he has killed me for nothing. Let him repent. If he does not repent, I'll be the accuser before God." People came and took the ash. When the ash was over, they took the soil. When the soil was over, they started digging. A very big hole developed. They covered and put the altar. This is where bishops and priests celebrate Mass. This is a holy place. The painting in the background, you see, it is showing that the Uganda Matters are in heaven. They have got palms, signs of victory. They have conquered the death. Now they are in heaven praising Jesus and God. And down is the Blessed Sacrament. That's where they keep the body of Jesus in the form of bread and wine, which they give the faithful when they come for the communion. And all those you see in the stained glasses, those are the Uganda Matters. Inside here is mahogany, outside copper sheets. The seating capacity of this shrine is 1,000. We have 4 masses every day, 5 masses every Sunday. The day we remember the Uganda Matters, over 1 million people come, masses in the compound. This church, this shrine, was started in 1967 and completed in 1975. It is a round shrine, it is a round church depicting African traditional hats and stands on 22 pillars representing the 22 Catholic martyrs. Round showing African hats. So we pray here, the door of the martyrs on the lake. There where you see white men, that is showing the arrival of the white fathers. Father Simeon Ludel and brother Amanis. Those are the people who evangelized the Uganda Matters. They were not killed. They wrote whatever we know. There you see Charles Rwanga baptizing Kizito. Kizito was the youngest. They killed him when he was only 14 years. He was not baptized by the missionaries. So now it was Charles Rwanga who baptized Kizito just shortly after the condemnation. And I'm telling him, younger man, don't lose faith. We are going in heaven. Those 2 martyrs are popular. Kizito, because he was the youngest. Charles Rwanga, because he was the leader. Now there you see, near the door there you see the Pope. The Pope, Pope Paul VI, was just lying down here under the altar. In the whole of Africa, the first Pope came to Uganda. He was here at Namugongo on the 2nd of August, 1969. Pope Paul VI. In all of Africa, he first came to Uganda. And he came here at Namugongo. John Paul II also was here at Namugongo on 7th of February, 1993. Pope Francis also came on 28th of November 2015. And the last painting there is showing the first cardinal of Uganda, the late Emmanuel Nsubuga. He was made a cardinal in 1976 and he died in 1991. Now there you see the Kabaka, the king. The king was sitting on the skin of a leopard, showing his powers. Kabaka Mwanga, King Mwanga, the one who killed the Uganda martyrs. He was just sitting on the skin of a leopard, sitting on his throne, passing a death sentence. Take them away, go and burn them. Take them to Namugongo and burn them. Now the last painting there is showing canonization. The Uganda martyrs are all saints. They were proclaimed the saints on 18th of October, 1964.
I'll be waiting you to join me on the second episode as we continue to exhaust religious tourism with the Catholics. We'll be starting exactly see what's also there regarding the Uganda matters.
Good morning, welcome back from GMU Tourism Express, and interesting that with business we're still starting with tourism. My name is Julie Nantabamusisi, GMU Business Today, and the Ugandan mission in Paris has launched an ambitious tourism campaign leveraging European media influencers and tour operators to attract over 2,000 tourists from Europe to Uganda each year. Ambassador Doreen Ruth Amule says this effort is part of Uganda's wider tourism diplomacy strategy, supporting the country's bold target of growing its economy to $500 billion in the next 15 years. As Uganda charts a path toward $500 billion economy over the next 15 years, tourism is one vital pillar in this growth, leading the charge in Europe. The Ugandan embassy in Paris recently concluded a high-impact 10-day familiarization tour with 15 media influencers and tour operators from France, Portugal, and Spain. The group explored Uganda's top attractions, starting at Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary, the only home to wild rhinos in the country, before heading to the iconic Murchison Falls for a dramatic view of the Nile's power. From there, game drives and boat cruises in Murchison Falls and Queen Elizabeth National Parks brought them face to face with the giraffes, elephants, lions, and hippos, offering a glimpse into Uganda's rich biodiversity. In Chivale Forest National Park, often called the primate capital of the world, visitors tracked chimpanzees and explored the Bigodi wetlands, experiencing rare bird species and lush ecosystems. But the highlight for many was gorilla trekking in the dense, windy, impenetrable forest, an emotional once-in-a-lifetime experience that left lasting impressions, with reels, blog posts, and social content already circulating across Europe. The tour is expected to spark new interest and boost bookings to Uganda. This follows an earlier milestone in March when the mission welcomed its first cohort of European influencers. Another move credited with generating measurable tourist bookings, coupled with major initiatives like the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo and the launch of Uganda Airlines UK route. Uganda's tourism diplomacy in Paris is positioning the country as a top destination for global travelers. Uganda is not just the Pearl of Africa, it is the next great discovery. Still staying with matters tourism, but this time around with accommodation, Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute UHTTI has secured 260,000 euro, pardon me, a 260,000 euro grant from the Belgium embassy through that will enable to modernize its training systems and boost staff capacity. The funding aims to digitize administration and enable online learning for institutes, and that is the institute's 1,000 students, including 500 in formal studies and 450 apprentices. The grant will transform Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute's operations by introducing a digital system for administration and study, alongside comprehensive capacity building programs for staff to enhance service delivery. Belgium's investment in Uganda's tourism sector currently totals to 2.2 million euros, supporting initiatives such as fair trade tourism certification, skilling and decent work programs, business sustainability, and the establishment of a national skills council. Tourism contributed to 6.6% to Uganda's GDP in 2024 and accounted for 7.2% of the national employment, supporting over 8,000 jobs. This grant aligns with efforts to build sustainable tourism and youth employment through enhanced technical and vocational education. The partnership under enables We Work project, co-funded by the Belgian government, and the EU supports Uganda's ambition to position UHTTI as a center of excellence in tourism and hospitality training in the region. Focus areas include curriculum development, entrepreneurship, gender mainstreaming, and stronger private sector collaboration to improve youth employment outcomes. Finally, pilgrims walking in at Namugongo Martyrs Shrine have necessitated the startup of business, from makeshift shops to pop-up stalls, weaving themselves into the spiritual and economic fabric of the sacred season. Several businesses, ranging from the tentative stalls to tents offering food, drinks, and other essentials, have emerged as the faithful walk into the Namugongo Martyrs Shrine. Both first-time and returning entrepreneurs describe the experience as a blessing amidst the spiritual energy of the pilgrimage. This is not only a business opportunity, but also a moment for many entrepreneurs to give back to their loyal and faithful customers. All right, now let's have a look at the Forex rates as of 28th May 2025. And starting off with the dollar that opened with 3,644.36 buying and selling at 3,654.36 selling. Now it did drop value from its last rates as of 27th, but by midday yesterday it was at 3,640.50 and selling at 3,650.50, and it closed in at 3,638.68 and selling at 3,648.68. Generally, by yesterday, 28th of May, the dollar had dropped value there. But looking at the British pound, it was buying at 4,899.85, dropped value as well, and selling at 4,913.31. And the euro was buying at 4,110.98, dropped value as well, and selling at 4,122.28. And the Kenyan shilling, interestingly, dropped value as well, at buying at 28.16 and selling at 28.24. And the Tanzanian shilling still maintaining at 1.35, buying and selling at 1.35. And finally, the South African rand was buying at 202.47 and selling at 203.02. Lots of currencies did drop value from the day before. But that's it from GMU Business. Up next is the agenda. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
of the day on UBC.
He expected me to die like within the first 2 years.
Out of the womb, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists. And this happens commonly when children are starting to walk.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks, Kubei Dondolo. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Okwongera okuyiga ebikwata ku musolo n'okubisembereza abagusasula. Bannayuganda bangi balina ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo gwe basasula eri ekitongole kiwooza URA.
When we come at revenue, they tell us to clear kitenge at 10,000.
Alikuwa fika kwa mwingine URA na kurespect lazima mzee tuongee. Munaongee. Hakuna fika kwa nyingine na kamata faili yako naweka kwa drawer na.
Okutegeera obukulu bw'okusasula omusolo busobola okuyamba okuzza bizinesi yo n'okwewala okufiirizibwanga. Kati osobola okufuna okuddibwamu obutereevu. Sindika ebibuuzo ebikwata ku musolo ng'oweereza obubaka bw'obutereevu ne WhatsApp ku nnamba y'essimu 079 14 18 87. Olwo ofuna okuddibwamu okuva ewa Kamisona General URA John Musinguzi. Laba amawulire gaffe UBC leero buli lwa bbalaza n'olwokusatu ofuna okunnyonnyola okulambulukufu okuva ew'omukenkufu. Buuza Kamisona.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the front bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out, and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs.